Okay, so this is solving equations algebra. I'm going to split this lesson into two parts, the first 7 pages and then the last pages there. So what we're going to do is, the key to solving anything in algebra is you have to be able to get the variable by itself. That's the key thing. So for instance, the variable here is x. We need to get it by itself. So what we do is we can do something called the story of x. And the story of x is just a way to help you work through algebra and the different steps. So what we do is we write down our thing, x plus 2 equals 10. You can see right here. And then we put our story of x. Well, look at x right here. What's the first thing that happens to x? Well, we add 2. So we put plus 2 on the left-hand side. Well, we do the opposite of what's going on. So instead of adding 2, we're going to subtract 2. So over here, we put subtract 2. Now, this is where we're going to start when we do the algebra. So what we're going to do is we're going to take subtract 2, and we're going to subtract 2 from both sides of the equation, right? It always has to be in balance. Whatever you do the left side, you do the right side. So we subtract 2 over here, and we subtract 2 over here. Well, 2 subtract 2 is 0. Those are gone. And then we have 10 subtract 2, which is 8. So here's our answer here, x equals 8. So you can do the math, but here's the thing. How do you check to see if that is correct? Well, what we can do is we can do something called substitution. And this is a good thing to do when you're doing algebra for a while until you get the hang of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if the left side equals the right side. So at the top here, we put left side and right side. We write the original equation down, which is x plus 2 equals 10. And we're going to substitute in wherever you see an x, right? We're going to substitute in, what did we find out x is? We found out it's 8. So when we substitute x, we're going to put in the 8 in place. So we put in 8, 8 plus 2 equals 10, and then we work down the left side and the right side. So 10 equals 10, right? Because 8 plus 2 is 10. So if the left side equals the right side, we know that we got the question right. Now the answer, you got to remember the answer is x equals 8. It's the original piece from up here. Okay, so all we're going to do in this is we're going to go through story of x every time. Okay, so next page. Let's look at this one. So we have x minus 6 equals 3. X minus 6 equals 3. Well, we want to get x by itself. So the first thing that happens to x, we write it over here, is so you can see it, x subtract 6. Just read it that way. So subtract 6. Well, what's the opposite of subtracting 6? Adding 6. This is where we're going to start. We always start right here for this piece. We put what happens to x and then the opposite of what happens to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 6, remember, to both sides. Because it's an equation, we have to do it to both sides. So we add 6 and we add 6. So then we do the math. Negative 6 plus 6, those are gone. And then we have 3 plus 6, which is 9. So our answer is x equals 9. Are we right? Well, we don't know. Let's check with substitution. So again, we do left side, right side, put the equation down, x minus 6 equals 3. And then we substitute in, wherever there was an x, we substitute in the value. So in this case, remember, x is 9. So we substitute in 9. So 9 minus 6, right? And then we work our way through. 3 equals 3. Yes, left side equals right side. So we know we got it correct. But remember, the original answer is x equals 9. This bottom part here is just to check to see if you did it correctly. Okay, third page. So now let's throw some decimals in, but it doesn't make any difference. Let's throw x on the other side. Doesn't make any difference. So the key to solving any equation is to get the variable by itself. And again, I use x in all of these ones. You can use any letter you want for a variable. Don't get confused by that one. So here, we look at x. We put our little story of x down here. X is not by itself. What's attached to it? Well, it's x plus 10. So we write down plus 10. Well, what's the opposite of adding 10? Subtracting 10. And then that's where we're going to start right there. We're going to take and subtract 10 from both sides. Eventually, what you'll do is you won't have to do this story of x. You'll be able to see it and know what to do after that. So we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. 20.5 subtract 10 is 10.5. That works. Equals x. And the 10 subtract 10, that equals 0. They cancel each other out. So we think our answer is 10.5 equals x, or x equals 10.5. It doesn't matter how you write it. It's the same thing. You write it how you want to. All right, let's do check. Left side equals right side. So left side, right side, put the original equation down, and then where we see it x, we're going to substitute in 10.5. So 10.5 plus 10. And then we just do the work here. 10.5 plus 10 is 20.5. Yes, left side equals right side. We know we did it correctly. So our answer is 10.5. Okay, go to the fourth page. See, we're just building on concepts here. So we have 2x equals 10. Well, x is not by itself. What's attached to it? And this one's a little trickier. You have to realize when they're side by side like this, they're multiplied together, right? So the story of x is, we multiply x by 2. So the opposite is divide by x. Divide by 2, right? So times 2 and divide by 2. That's going to get us our x by itself. And this is where we start. We have to divide both sides by 2. So we put a division symbol here and put 2, division symbol here and put 2. Now, little difference in terminology. Before, those other ones cancel each other out because we ended up with 0. But when you have 2 over 2, they don't technically cancel, they reduce. They reduce down to 1, because if they canceled, it would be 0, and 0 times x is 0, so that doesn't work, right? So these ones reduce down to 1. It's just terminology, but we might as well get it right. So then we have x by itself, and then we have 10 divided by 2 is 5. Is this the answer? Well, we'll find out by doing the check, left side equals right side. So we go left side equals right side, write down the original equation, which is 2x equals 10, substitute in, and if you notice I put in 2 and I put in brackets 5. You got to remember when they're side by side like this, that means multiplication. If you wanted to, you could put 2 times 5, like a little dot or a little x. Doesn't matter to me. Equals 10. We work along, 10 equals 10, left side equals right side. We know we did it correctly. Okay, page 5. So this one, we have negative 3x equals 18. So the difference here is it's still multiplied, but we threw a negative in there just to change it up a bit. So x is not by itself. What's attached to it? A negative 3 is attached to it, but how is that negative 3 attached? By multiplication, because they're side by side. So you can see that's why I went times negative 3. Well, what's the opposite of multiplying by negative 3? Dividing by negative 3. Now, don't change the sign. That's not the opposite part. The opposite is only the sign here. So this was multiplication, this is division. So instead of multiplying by negative 3, we're going to divide by negative 3. And this is where we start right here. So we go back up here, and we put divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. Well, these negative 3s, they reduce, right? Because anything divided by itself, like negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, so they reduce. And we have x by itself. So now we do 18 divided by negative 3, which is negative 6. Okay? Is that the right answer? Don't know. Hey, let's check. So we do substitution on left side equals right side. So left side, we write it down. Right side, we write it down. You can see right here, you can see the equals in the middle here. Keep your balance. So negative 3x equals 18, but we're going to substitute in x equals negative 6. So negative 3 times negative 6 is the left-hand side. 18 is the right-hand side. So negative times a negative is a positive. Oh, yeah, I got to remember those rules that we had. So we have 18 equals 18. So left side equals right side. We know we did it correctly. Yeah, there's a big old check mark, right? The answer is correct because left side equals right side. Okay, next page here. Let's go to, what page are we on now? Page 6. So this one is a little different. We have x divided by 3 equals 5. So x divided by 3 equals 5. Well, what happened to x? We divide by 3, story of x. So what's the opposite of it? We multiply it by 3. Sorry, should have said that before. Divide by 3 and then multiply by 3. This is where we're going to start right here. We're going to multiply both sides by 3. So now when we do this, this is a little different. We put brackets around stuff to help us. And we put our 3 up the top here. Don't put it on the right-hand side. Put it on the left-hand side. Because if you put it on the right-hand side, it looks like an exponent. So we're going to put our times by 3 up here, times by 3 up here. Now, again, it's 3 and 3, right? So they reduce down to 1. And this one just means 3 times 5. And 3 times 5 is 15. So x equals 15. Well, is that the right answer? I don't know. Let's check with substitution. So what we do is we have left side, right side. Plug in x divided by 3 equals 5. And then we're going to substitute in x for 15. So there's the 15. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So left side equals right side. 5 equals 5. So we know we did it correct. Now remember, this 5 equals 5 is not your answer. That is just the checkpoint. Your real answer is x equals 15 up here, right? Okay, page 7. So this one, same procedure here. So this one's a little different. Like 16 equals x divided by negative 4. So sorry, 6 equals x divided by negative 4. So some students don't like when it's written that way. So what I did here is I actually wrote it down differently. I went 6 equals x divided by negative 4. So this is also a way to write this question up here. If you find you want to write it as this one, go right ahead. It might make it easier. But the math is still the same. So x is not by itself. It's got a negative 4 attached to it, and the negative 4 is attached to it by division. So divide by negative 4. So what's the opposite of doing that for the story of x? We multiply by negative 4. And this is where we're going to start, right? This is what we're going to do. The reason we do this story of x is eventually we're going to get to two-step equations, and this tells you the order to do stuff in. Okay, so we're going to multiply both sides by negative 4. So 6 times negative 4, negative 4, right? That divided negative 4 times negative 4. So these ones are gone here, right? They reduce down to 1. So 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. And then x is by itself. So then we have negative 24 equals x. Now, is that correct? Don't know. Let's do with substitution. So left side, right side. Write down the equation. 6 equals x divided by negative 4. Then we plug in where we replace the x, we plug it in with negative 24. So we have 6 on this side. Now we have negative 24 divided by negative 4. Negative divided by negative is positive. We know that. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So 6 equals 6. The answer is correct if the left side equals the right side of the equation, and our answer is x equals 24. Okay, now there's a couple more pages to this one, but we'll do that in the second part of this lesson, just to break it up a bit.